Welcome back to the Explainer. We hear so much about advanced missiles and radar systems, but today we're shining a massive spotlight on the unsung hero that makes literally all of that technology possible. We're talking about Abhyas. We're going to unpack exactly what this tech is, why it's an absolute game changer for defense testing, and how it completely rewrites the rules for India's strategic autonomy. So, let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to meet the unsung hero, trace the path to independence, and look at the strategic impact on India. Then we'll cover the engineering and global context, the future outlook and advantages, and finally lock it all in with some key memory triggers.
Section 1. Meet the unsung hero, mimicking the threat. Now it's time to completely subvert what you might think you know about military drones. Normally, when we hear drone, we picture spies or bombers, right? But Abhyas is totally different. It's what's known as a HEAT, a high-speed expendable aerial target. It's an indigenous, unmanned drone whose sole magnificent purpose is actually to be hunted down and destroyed. Think about it. To test a surface-to-air or air-to-air missile, the military literally needs a physical target up in the sky. So Abhyas is designed to fly incredibly fast and perfectly mimic the exact flight profile of an enemy jet or cruise missile.
So, why are we talking about this in today's Explainer? Well, it's because the Defense Research and Development Organization, the DRDO, just hit a massive milestone. They successfully wrapped up multiple developmental trials of Abhyas. And guys, this is huge news. It proves that India finally has the in-house capability to test its own weapons without having to drop millions importing incredibly expensive foreign target drones to do it. Moving to Section 2, the path to independence, building our own targets. To really get the value of ABS, we need to look at a major historical vulnerability. In the past, whenever India developed a sophisticated new weapon, they hit a glaring bottleneck. They had to buy these crazy expensive target drones from the UK or the US. And that left India entirely at the mercy of foreign export control laws. If another country just decided to change its policies, boom, India's testing schedule would completely freeze. But the new reality? That's ABS. Based on an older design, this thing is significantly smaller, way faster, cheaper, and most importantly, 100% domestically controlled. Let's look at the timeline. Back in 2012, DRDO's Aeronautical Development Establishment, the AD, realized that relying on foreign targets was just a massive strategic vulnerability. So they conceptualized Abhyas. Fast forward to 2019, and we get the very first successful flight. And now, in 2024, the final developmental trials are officially complete. The AD engineered this system to easily sustain high subsonic speeds while keeping a very low radar cross-section. Basically, it's incredibly hard for radar to spot, which perfectly simulates the modern stealthy threats the armed forces actually need to prep for.
All right, Section 3, Strategic Impact on India, Why It Matters.
There are a few cascading benefits here that are just massive. Number 1 is absolute import substitution. By producing this domestically, India is saving an immense amount of foreign exchange. But honestly, the bigger deal is that crucial missile testing schedules are never, ever delayed by the political shifts or export control laws of other nations again. It's true self-reliance in aerospace testing. Number 2 on our list is realistic combat training. Look, a missile defense system is ultimately only as good as the crew operating it, right? What Abhyas brings to the table is total realism. It lets air defense gunners and fighter pilots practice shooting at a target that actually flies, performs complex maneuvers, and even drops flares exactly like a real Pakistani or Chinese aircraft would in an actual combat scenario. And number 3, validating new weapons. As India really pushes the boundaries of aerospace engineering with highly advanced systems like the long-range Project Kusha or the Astra Mk2, they absolutely need a reliable, high-speed target. You literally have to prove that the missile's seeker, its eyes, actually lock on and work in real-world conditions before you commit to mass production. So Abhyas becomes the ultimate proving ground for these next-generation weapons. Which brings us to Section 4, Engineering and Global Context, the prerequisite for aerospace power. Let's zoom out for a quick second, because building a target drone, it is not as simple as building a remote-controlled airplane. From a global perspective, possessing domestic target drones is basically the barrier to entry for any serious aerospace power. There's a quote that perfectly captures this. You cannot claim to build world-class missiles if you can't even build the targets to test them on. It's spot on.
If you're outsourcing your testing targets, you are inherently limiting your own weapon development lifecycle.
It's actually really fascinating to see how DRDO solved the immense engineering hurdles to build this thing. For the launch, Abhyas uses twin underslung boosters to get it rocketing into the air. Then, once it's airborne, a small gas turbine engine takes over for sustained high subsonic flight. But the real magic? That's the micro-electromechanical systems, or MEMS, navigation. Think about it. When you're firing live missiles, you absolutely cannot have a target flying erratically. The MEMS navigation ensures the drone flies exactly where it's programmed to, guaranteeing a safe and highly controlled testing environment. Section 5, Future Outlook and Advantages. Ready for mass production.
Transitioning to mass production unlocks the absolute most crucial advantage of Abhyas, and that is its expendability. Because it's manufactured domestically and is relatively cheap, the military doesn't have to sweat about recovering the drone after a test. They can literally blow it out of the sky with a missile, collect and learn from all the invaluable telemetry data, and then roll out and launch another one the very next day. This paves the way for continuous, rapid, and really aggressive testing schedules.
Finally, Section 6, Key Memory Triggers, Final Revision.
Let's pull this all together so it sticks. Remember the acronym HEAT, High-Speed Expendable Aerial Target. Its main purpose is simulating enemy threats for live fire. The drone itself is called Abhyas, built by the ADE under the DRDO, and ultimately this represents two major strategic leaps for India: absolute import substitution and vital combat readiness for the country's air defense crews.
I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to chew on. Now that Abhyas has secured independent, cost-effective, and rapid testing capabilities, just how rapidly will India's next-generation aerospace weapons advance? When you remove that massive testing bottleneck, the pace of innovation can truly skyrocket. Think about that as you review today's material. And that wraps up our deep dive on Abhyas. Stay tuned for our next explainer, where we'll be taking to the seas to explore India's floating air bases, the aircraft carriers. You definitely won't want to miss it.